No noise, no fluff, just real talk and fresh perspective. You're listening to the Pulse Check Podcast. Let's get into it.
Boom, 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 boom. We're good, man.
We're good to go.
Well, I think the best thing to do to start off is to say we're back.
We're back. We're so back.
And we're better.
And we're better. 1,000 times
I
better.
want you bad as ever.
Pause.
That's crazy. Don't.
No, you're Bryson Tiller now.
No, I'm not a Bryson Tiller fan.
Me neither, honestly. I thought his music, he peaked pretty early, like that 2018 time, and then, after that, all his albums just sounded the same. Like, I'm like, how long have you been hurt, bro?
Yeah, I was gonna say I guess he lost the sad boy audience.
Who is that other guy that made like music for it's called the Toxics? It's Brent Faiyaz. Oh
yeah.
my God, yo! But Brent makes slaps though.
I don't think it's Bryson Tiller was just like
Hurt. He was actually
he
hurt.
was hurt.
Yeah.
People try to relate to it.
Yeah.
I knew people that were like making up like scenarios and relationships they got hurt in just to relate to the song.
Everybody was hurt in 2018. I don't know what
this
it was.
didn't happen to you, bro.
But Brent, the funny thing is, Brent makes like the toxic music. Let's call it that. If you know what that is, then you know. But Brent has a wife and kids.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. These people be fine out there. There was somebody else that'd be like, oh, it's Cardi B. No. That wasn't Cardi B. Was it Cardi?
That did what?
That was like, I don't cook, I don't clean.
Oh yeah,
and then
Cardi.
they showed
That's
a clip
Cardi.
of her cooking and
That's
cleaning.
Cardi. That's Cardi.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just for the bait, get people to identify with the music, even though the artist doesn't really do half of those things. Like Future.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if I'm listening to a bunch of music that's supposed to be like uplifting and motivating, like push yourself, like that type of thing, and then I look at a clip of them like sitting in bed eating Cheetos,
or like crashing out on the Starbucks employee.
Yeah, that's what I'm just like, I don't want to be like you for real.
No, not at all, man.
That's a hell of a way to start this.
It's a great way to start the podcast. Exposing all of our most hated popular artists. I don't hate them. I'm just analyzing the pattern.
I think this is a good way to start internet beef. I think that's what they do.
Cardi B, I am probably not sorry.
That's tough. Oh, we're gonna get so famous now.
It's the Beehive. No, that's
no,
the Beyonce
that's
fans.
Beyonce and them.
Who cares, man? Beyonce fans are weird.
Oh.
Stans. Let's say stans. Because I know Kendrick stans are weird. I'm not a Kendrick stan. I'm just Kendrick
We're
fan.
losing our popular music audience.
Well, all two of you. See you next time. All right, man. Let's get started, man. It's been quite a doozy since the last time we've done this, huh?
Yeah, this was maybe a month and a half ago, something like that.
All right, wow, it feels like so much longer.
I mean, maybe late February.
Uh-huh.
That was 2 months ago, wasn't it?
Oh crap! Yeah, it was. Man, this is
the fall off is real.
For all the people who told us that we fell off, mostly Kylan, it's duly appreciated. Thank you, Saxon Studio, for bullying Kylan as much as you can.
Yeah, I pulled up in the hallway one time, and I'm glad I know more of y'all now. But who's the kid with the curly hair? Like he's got like a flat head.
Glasses?
No, he's got curly hair.
But it's like a lighter hair?
Like racially ambiguous. Am I tweaking?
Wait, okay, he has a flat head.
Well, yeah, man, I said he had a flat head. That's just how I perceived it. It might not actually be flat. It may be normal. Yeah, put in the comments who
you
you
he
think.
doesn't wear glasses?
He might.
He kind of talks like he's like really excited.
Man, we are destroying this kid.
Not at all. He's just that's his affect, you know. Like,
I think
he's just
so.
Very pippy. He might be talking about Caleb.
Maybe.
Very upbeat guy.
Yeah, because he saw me in the hallway, and you could tell, like, I passed by him, and you could tell, like, his brain was kind of working as if he was trying to process information that he had gotten in the past. And then, like, I passed by him, and, you know, I don't know him, but I just gave him one that, you know. And then I turned back around to do something, and he's like, he's like, Kylan? And I turned around and looked at him, and he's just like, why did you fall off? And he turns around and walks away. I said, hey, come back here, man. He told you to say that. He's like, Matt told us to say, why did you fall off? Like,
That would probably that's definitely Caleb.
you're like indoctrinating these kids, man. They like, y'all go to sax work and y'all are just like, Kylan fell off. Kylan fell off. Kylan fell off. And you're like, good, one more time. Kylan fell off. You're like teaching these kids how to glaze.
You don't understand how hard they're gonna clip that, bro.
Kylan fell off. No,
You know they have stickers on iMessage.
Wait, what kind of stickers, bro? Not of me. No, chill. All right, pod's over.
No, they have one of like it's like someone taking a 0.5 of you and it's like zooming in on your face.
Wait, how do they have that? What? What are we doing? Oh, sweet God.
This is genuinely so funny. Oh my god.
They use that?
Yeah, man.
Bro, that's all right. If you play the saxophone and you go to Florida State University, go outside. Touch the grass. You know what I'm saying? Go on a walk. Do something else.
You gotta clip the Michael Jordan meme of him saying, "Stop it,
Stop it.
Get some help."
Get some help. Yeah, that's in there. That's crazy. Yeah, you gotta touch some grass, man. Do some activities. Get a
You're
workout
just a
in.
superstar, man."
Me?
Yeah. For those who don't have context, Kylan Bigby was our guest artist yesterday on the Saxophone Orchestra concert. He came and played Dvorak's Ninth Symphony with us. You know,
Beautiful piece of music.
yeah, maybe a rehearsal and a half type thing.
I mean, maybe. Both of which I had to leave early.
Yeah, and he was locked. You know, so get at your guy for all your percussion needs. You know, this is the guy.
No,
gotta
it
do
was it was fun. And it's you know, it was pretty easy to come in and play with you guys. I mean, obviously the group is well rehearsed, and I was curious about this. I was on the drive here, and I thought about some things we could talk about. And I was going to ask you. I was curious about the process of getting your group ready, and not compared, but like thinking also about the process that our process here, and the similarities and differences, because you guys play really well. But it just looks different. It looks different, and it works, and it y'all's personalities and the culture of your studio was very evident in the way that you guys played. It's like you guys were very, you know, when y'all played the Devil's Rag, y'all were very like, you know, funny. You guys were interacting with each other. You know, it was, the piece is supposed to be fun and playful and things like that. But I mean, when you guys started to play some of the orchestral rep, I mean, you guys were very serious, and so you guys showed kind of both sides of that. But like, what's that like, getting the group together, and how many rehearsals, and kind of like a snapshot of the semester?
Yeah, it's tough because, well, a few different things. We're trying to make the ensemble like supreme quality, whatever that means, and so that's an effort from everyone, from myself, you know, to every single person in the ensemble. And you know, funny thing is, I think sometimes when we think about this sort of group, we emphasize the importance of like the conductor or whatever. You know, like I wouldn't say my role in this is super important. I think that they put in like an astronomical amount of work. But to support my claim, we had a rehearsal where we missed both of our Barry 2 players, and we did a run through of this one piece, and there's just holes everywhere, and no one in the ensemble ever heard that before because they're always there.
Yeah,
you know, and so like it was a great point to a great way to drive home the point that like it doesn't matter if you're playing like I don't know Barry Sax 19. You know, your part is actually really important, especially like performing an orchestral score with a saxophone ensemble. Like there's so much more that's stuffed into one person's part than would naturally be in an orchestra.
Yeah,
because it's a smaller ensemble. But the process, man, I mean, I can tell you a little bit about what I thought. I knew that we were going to the NASA conference, so we ended up doing Devil's Rack from memory by then, and the fourth movement of the Dvorak, which was about a month ago. And that was scary. I mean, all of this was pretty dense music, and like that's kind of the point. You know, we in the past, like we've wanted to just spend the time that we're allocating like the 3 hours a week to playing like really good repertoire, and that's hard. But you know, finding the right arrangements helps that for sure. But from the beginning of the semester, things that I look out for or try to, and I do this sometimes better than others, is I need to know all the dress rehearsal dates for like the major ensembles, how that conflicts with our rehearsal schedule, and then literally like counting down the amount of rehearsals that we have before our next engagement or before like the final recital. Yeah, which kind of dictates like how I'm going to pace the hour and a half every rehearsal. And so it's, you know, like we talked about in the previous episode, Dr. Parks had mentioned like the eagle eye versus you know, the chicken vision. Like I had to be like so eagle eye because I mean Dvorak is hard. Yeah. And like it challenged everyone in the ensemble from grad student down to do something that they haven't done before. And like that's kind of what we want, you know, and just like making everyone better in any way, which is why we do the thing. Yeah. You know, and yeah, I mean, honestly, there are a few times because the ensemble is majority first and second year, with a few upperclassmen sprinkled in and 2 grad students, and I mean, they played the snot out of that stuff, and so, you know, major kudos to them. But I mean, there were plenty of times like along the process, I was like, holy crap, like maybe I bit off a little more than I could chew with this. But you know, we did more than we made it work. You know, those I can't wait to hear the recordings. But yeah, I would say like it's easy to push forward and push that standard when you have a good crop of people that want it. You know, and they do.
They work. I can tell they work hard. Just kind of watching them. Probably when I was in rehearsal the first few times, just kind of watching them and seeing how they're engaged. You know, give or take a couple of goofballs. But
you gonna name drop or
what's up?
No.
What's that?
Don't worry about it.
What'd you say? Yeah.
You gonna name drop anybody?
No, Mikey Chang. But what were we talking about? No, but I can tell how engaged they were, especially like the younger ones. Like they're like you got a lot of sponges in that group, and you can tell like everything that you say or Dr. Daiba will say, like they're ready to absorb it and then use it. You know, sometimes being engaged for a full hour and a half rehearsal,
especially at the end of the day.
Yeah. You guys rehearsal at 5:30 or something.
Before that, we used to do 7:30.
No,
7:30 to 9.
God, I couldn't imagine, especially when you get in the fall. Did y'all do it a lot in the fall when the kids had Chiefs? Mm-hmm. That's just that's difficult.
Yeah, you know, I mean, like to your point that you said about them being sponges. I mean, it's a great thing, and it's a difficult thing to deal with. It's a great problem to have, you know, because a lot of this repertoire is unfamiliar to me as well, and I have to like think. There's so much time that I spent like doing score study and just like analyzing as much things as I can and relaying that information back, you know, because if I'm relaying them a bunch of nothing, then it's going to sound like a bunch of nothing. Yeah. You know, so is it, you know, I can say more that it was a challenge for all of us in the greatest ways possible.
It was neat to see. First of all, I said I was going to do this. I think it's kind of remarkable just how much Dr. Dybel depends on you guys. A lot of places say it. We have fantastic grads, and we depend on them. But sometimes you don't really get to see what that looks like. And he depends a lot on y'all. I mean, specifically, you were doing you were running the audio, then you were running over getting your soprano, putting that together. You were playing notes because you hadn't yet on the way over there, and then you play, and then you go and conduct two pieces. So it's kind of cool to see. I mean, I'm very certain we can ask him very soon, next time.
Yeah,
he may or may not be on the podcast next episode. But he really does depend on you guys a lot, and you guys play and you coach and you teach, and your efforts are reflected in the way that the students play because you're engaging with them constantly, and you're on the front line of tracking their progress, which is neat. That's neat to see. And I mean, I haven't seen a snapshot of what specific students look like from the beginning of their time to the end, but they're playing really well, and I can only imagine y'all's effort towards that really helps.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't even think about it. It's just about the next task that has to get done, for better or for worse. And then I look back and I'm like, I either don't remember what just happened, or I'm like, wow, we actually just did a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, we really have a great team here. The grads and Dr. Dybel, we do so much to curate this experience.
Yeah.
And for ourselves, but also for the culture that we're trying to build in the studio. And so it's just about adding to that.
Yeah.
Reinforcing those ideals and leaving this studio and this place better than what we found it.
Yeah.
And this is new for our studio with an ensemble with this size and it being this intense in addition to all the other things that we do. But the way we see it, myself, the grads, and Dr. Dybel included, is we're laying the foundation for the eventual all-star group that this is really going to be, and it already is. But our ambitions are so much higher.
Sure.
And so
it's got to be. It's got to be, and
yeah.
It does two things. It makes them feel a part of something that's bigger.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it works on. I mean, you guys are going to be in a position that Dr. Dybel's in. You get to see what works.
Yeah.
What doesn't work, what you want to do, what you wouldn't do. I tried this when I was teaching sax at work, and we had a rehearsal and we ran it this way, and it didn't work that well. But the next time we did it, it did work that well, and everybody was more engaged, and you can start to piece some of those things together. So it's educational for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Dr. Dybel, because it's not an easy thing to hand over the keys or things like that. There's a certain amount of trust that has to go into that,
A lot.
And
it has to be a lot.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I am normally a above average organized person, and I think that has helped me a lot with the ensemble. When I was doing my undergrad and I was taking conducting, and I learned a lot about rehearsal planning and just sectioning that stuff out from Dr. Chipman, and then I went to Southern Miss, and then I was in wind ensemble there, and Dr. Rand had timestamps on everything we were doing in rehearsal that day. So I had some great examples of what the top of that really looked like. And so that carried over for me. But even then, I still have to carve out time in the schedule to do the score study or know what to say, or how are we going to chunk out this rehearsal? How does it, but all of that doesn't happen without a professor to trust and say, I think you'd be good for this.
Yeah.
And do it, And so it came with all the times I did it well. It came with the times that I flopped a few times, you know, and I mean, it's all been good, but you know, it's really because of that trust that exists, and I feel comfortable to just be me and just do my thing.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think I haven't experienced this a whole lot, but I've kind of seen it. Maybe more when I was in my master's program in Georgia. But when a professor gives a grad student kind of the space to do that, but then is kind of also, you know, more involved than I think the responsibility that they've given that the person requires. So it's kind of like the person doesn't really know how much they can actually have control over it. And so it's this you're kind of in the middle of being, you know, having complete control and responsibility of this ensemble, and then kind of defaulting to whatever the major professor wants to do. So it's like you really never get to put a plan together. You're just kind of doing what you think that the professor would want.
Yeah.
And so you just, you know, babysitting.
Yeah, right.
Which is a bad way to think about it, but I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah. And also, one thing I was thinking about is it's always great to have two guys in the fight with you. I talked a little bit about this because, you know, Mike is leaving. Mike is leaving.
There's too many clips in this one.
But, you know, like, I can just bounce ideas off of Mike and AJ. Right after rehearsal, we'll talk like, hey, is this working? Like, what do we need to do differently? And, like, it's because all three of us are dedicated to doing what's necessary for this studio to succeed.
Yeah.
And so it's not about one person doing the task. Like, I think it has very little to do with me, actually. It has everything to do with what we're working towards. And it's I love that. I really do. It helps you remove all sense of self out of it.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, I mean, I want to know what that looks like for you too. You know, like I went to the percussion ensemble recital the other day in Opperman, and I mean, you guys just always do such high level stuff. Like every time I see the percussion ensemble, I'm like, man, what is that like? Like, how are you getting so much buy-in from your whole studio and like that level of like enthusiastic buy-in? And you know, I mean, what has your experience been like?
It's a mixture of a couple things. It's the mixture of like Dr. Parks through the percussion ensemble program has kind of built a machine. You know, it sprinkles its way to other aspects of our playing, like our expectations of lessons and large ensemble playing. But it all comes from percussion ensemble. Like that's the big thing here. And so he hasn't had to be an enforcer on learn your part and do this, right? He hasn't had to do that because the machine's been going for so long. Like the expectations are known when you walk into audition your freshman year.
Yeah.
Like, so people, like these kids know what's expected in a percussion ensemble. So the motivation factor, like the buy-in is never something that has to be reinforced.
Right.
Right. And then whenever there's some slacking off, so to speak, that's kind of where we step in, and we kind of, to some extent have our hands on the pieces at some point. Like, I don't know if you caught it, but the first piece was an arrangement of a marimba solo, and Austin coached up that one a bunch. He's real familiar with the solo, and he worked with the students on that one. Occasionally we'll pop in and work and listen to the pieces early in the process, because later in the process, I mean, these kids can come in all freshman ensemble. They can just work on their own, and the result is really, really good. They don't need grad students to come in here and work with them having a marimba sectional on a piece. So they don't need, like, eventually once we've come in early and shown them, okay, these are the things you need to do, you let them go, and then they come back, a month before the concert playing it for Dr. Parks, and he's like, just keep it up and we'll be good, So yeah. The expectation is not something that needs to be consistently reinforced. No, you have some that need to be pushed a little bit, just because, school life. But, those things always come together at the end. And Part of it is us trying to, relieve the stress of Dr. Parks early in the process. Like they're meeting regularly pretty early on, just so that he feels comfortable about when he needs to see it.
Right.
Which he doesn't really see it until about a month into the semester, and by then, I mean, outside rehearsal is the thing that gets it here. And outside, like in percussion ensemble, we usually rehearse 1 to 2 pieces a day, of 4 or 5. Like we'll do 4 or 5 on a concert cycle. Most of the time, you'll rehearse your piece 1 time a week. Some people are on 2, so you may have two rehearsals in a week. But all the work is done outside. Like we meet at night or early in the day, to get all the detailed work done and to figure out how your part fits with somebody else. So that the first time Dr. Parks hears it, it's almost concert ready.
Right.
Which is insane to think about, because some programs like percussion ensemble is probably done so differently. And I say this not knowing how other instrumental ensembles work, but I mean, there's some percussion ensemble, like when I was an undergrad, we used to do this a little bit, but you'd come in and you'd work on one piece and it'd be like beginning to like D is the focus that day. And so, D to the end didn't really get touched until about 5 weeks into the semester, because you didn't really have to look at that because you weren't going to do it in a rehearsal. And so, that caused kids to procrastinate,
Right.
Because it's like, dude, the beginning to D is like 30 bars. I don't need to work on that until the day before. Like, and that's the reason that Dr. Parks doesn't really want to do it that way, is because front loading causes you to be ready for every possible thing for that first rehearsal.
Yeah.
Which he's really big on, being ready for that first rehearsal. And then after that, you're just you're making the piece yours. You're adding different things, changing colors, changing mallets, working on inflection, stylistic things. He likes to do that right away.
Yeah.
And which is like, I think it's awesome that we do that. So the program buy-in is not, it's weird. I've never seen something like it. He doesn't really have to do much. He just kind of shows up first rehearsal with 12:30 hits, 1, 2, ready in, and then we just kind of go.
I mean, I think there's something to be said about, just that continuity of it having been done consistently, and the demand of the standard being high for a long period of time. And that's like the callus we're trying to build up in our studio with that. And it's shaping up quick. I won't realize it while I'm here, because my lifespan as a doctoral student is pretty finite. But I'm okay with that. I'm just cool with the cog that I fit into the wheel of this, and I can't wait to see what this looks like in 10 years. And hopefully it'll be just like that. I mean, I think that's what I admire, and I mean, it speaks for the work that you all are able to do, and the quality that you're able to put out. But when everyone is just you don't have to think about recharging the battery during that time, or telling people why they should plug their phone in at night. They come with it at 100%, and what that looks like is very different than I think what most people think. I don't think it means 1,000% preparation to play every single lick perfectly at that time, but it's like an awareness thing of like knowing where your spots are and knowing where your spot interacts with something else that you circumvent before the rehearsal. The H2 Quartet came and did a quartet concerto with the wind orchestra, and they were in our studio class this past week.
They played with the wind orchestra?
Yeah. You were there.
I'm just kidding.
This guy thinks he's funny, but he's not. It's crazy. But they came to our studio class, and we had some really good performances from 2 undergrads that day. And I love watching other people teach, which is a funny thing, because sometimes, I can't remember the context, but sometimes like I coach a quartet, an undergrad quartet, and Dr. Dabo will come in and just like coach that day too.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just sit and I just like to watch my professor teach, you know, because I don't proclaim to know everything. And I tell my students that all the time, like, I'm still learning. I'm young, you know, like this guy has done the thing, been in the ringer so much more than I have.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because sometimes Dr. Darbo will be like, Matt, you got anything else? I'm like, no. And sometimes he'll be like, Matt, I'm sorry, I don't mean to like take up the whole coaching. I'm like, no, I'm actually really just enjoying watching you teach right now.
That's all.
You know,
That's nice.
But I said that because, you know, members of the HU Quartet were doing the studio class that day, and this is like so tangential to tie back to what we were talking about, but they were dissecting like 2-word phrases that were in the piece, like on the first page, and how that should reflect into the performance and how that hadn't been reflecting into the student's performance. And like, it's not that the student was not prepared. They were super prepared to play both of those things. But it's just, you know, even the littlest things that we can gloss over, that is information available on the page. And they said, oh, this was supposed to impact your performance in week 2 of you playing this, you know. This is stuff that you do before the master class.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like condescending. It was just like, no, like, this is the
They didn't know.
expectation.
They wouldn't have known.
And it didn't, like, they still played the snot out of that music.
Yeah.
Like, but, you know, it just amazed me and you know, reminded me of how thorough I even have to be. But I think, like, just that one experience had affected everyone in that room, you know, and I'm sure everyone looked at the next piece of music that they played differently.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I don't know, like that's, you know, when we talk about preparation, especially for these ensembles that some people would say are like auxiliary in comparison to like your more smaller chamber ensemble or your major large ensemble. But like, I mean, when you see the things that the percussion ensemble does, I would say that that has just as much impact in like terms of like boasting the status of our College of Music as like anything else.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't like sometimes that people downplay that, and
Oh yeah.
you know,
hot take. We hadn't had one yet.
ooh,
Well, this is gonna get. I might get chopped down for this.
all right,
I'll word it like this. I wish that was higher on the priority list for every studio here, and most places, not just here, but we sometimes we just get into doing our thing that we don't think about. And I say we because, I mean, sometimes I do it personally. Sometimes we're not thinking about the bigger picture and what this does for the university, what this does for your program going forward. If you want this to be the best it can be, I think that makes everybody's job easier. If your studio is playing at a high level and representing the university well, and it's your instrumental ensembles and large ensembles is a big thing too. Like if I knew that I was going to large ensembles and nobody in all the other studios came to rehearsal thinking that the percussion section was going to be solid, that would bother me. And that's one way directly that, you know, your studio can positively or negatively affect the university, because you're making the ensemble sound bad, or you're not doing things to be visible outside of this. Like, you know, you guys went and played, was it NASA? You guys did that. We did the convention thing, and we were big on the recording projects. Got a huge one coming up in the next few years with the pretty big percussion composer. But I mean, things like that, it's cool because we like doing those things anyway. Yeah. But also it makes the university look good.
yeah,
You know, which is, I think that's one thing that Dr. Parks doesn't get enough credit for. As good as he is at what he does, he always values the reputation of the university, not just the College of Music. Big time the College of Music, but just, you know, what can we do to make Florida State be perceived as the best place to be?
exactly, man. That's what it's about. That's what it needs to be about. You know, that's the thing that that keeps me up at night because like I look at myself sometimes a little bit too simply, but like in this instance, I'm thinking about how am I contributing to that and how am I taking away from that?
Yeah.
You know, because this is practice, I feel, for when I get an actual job, but also like, you know, this is home, you know, and so like I feel like if I'm not making it better, then what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, I would not say, especially after this semester, that I do things in the most sustainable way. You know, this was probably the worst semester I've had here. And my grades are actually great, but like in terms of how I feel, like I haven't done the best job taking care of myself. But you know, one thing that I can confidently say is that I have done everything with less time than it requires. You know, I've just done like a lot of stuff, and that's not to toot my own horn, but I feel like by doing that, you know, maybe someone can like take even 10% of that and apply it to themselves. And then now I see that person doing something more and it's pushing me and like it's creating like it's festering and it's fostering like this not competition, but like, yo, you want to do more? I'll do more. You know, let's push each other. Oh, I saw you at 7 a.m. today. You know, come back at 6:45 tomorrow. You know, like that kind of thing. And like, I do think, like to your point, like holistically, more of that could be happening here. It just feels good to be in the ringer.
Yeah.
With your peers, you know.
I do wish this, and I didn't mean to stop you. I do wish that we knew more about what other people were doing. Like I know who are grad assistants. I know generally what they do, but I don't really know what comes with that. And not that I need to, not that it should affect what I do, but I have a level of respect for my colleagues that's high. Like I think that, you know, I mean, you guys, you know, the clarinet grads, you know, Kalen, and a bassoon or two. But you know, I feel like if we, like, I'll give this as an example. I was talking to some grad the other day, and I mean, we came in at the same time, like 2 years ago. They knew that I taught percussion methods, but because all the other methods courses, the tech classes, like woodwind tech, the TAs teach a portion of that class.
Yeah.
Like they'll teach 3-4 weeks of flute, 4 weeks of bassoon. I do the same thing, but it's like 3-4 weeks of one instrument in the percussion family, and it's me teaching the whole semester.
Right.
And they didn't know that I did that, and they didn't know it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Right.
And they were like, "You mean to tell me you wake up at 5 3 times a week and you come here?" And I'm like, "For a whole year?" You know, so I'm like people like, not that shouldn't matter, but like that changed their face because like there was somebody that I've just kind of been doing a bunch of stuff lately with, like, so many recitals and stuff been playing on lately, which is a blessing. I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, it's like, pity on me for being accepted as a decent player. People want to ask me to do things, but they just didn't know that was a part of the equation, and that's like motivating, like seeing kind of what you guys do, and how involved you are with sax org, and then you guys play in your quartet, and then you coach quartets. You don't play in orchestras because they don't need you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody can't make good choices, especially orchestral musicians.
Yeah, and we're not touching any of the saxophone rep. Like, we're not playing American in Paris. We're not playing Bolero. We're not doing that.
Sorry for your loss.
Because we're trying to keep you guys in the corner of the com.
It's true.
Just kidding.
It's true.
No, we love saxophonists. Yeah, especially in jazz.
Get out.
Okay, that's funny.
But you know, I think it's hard because I would like, if I could like walk back something I said before, like I wouldn't even take myself too much to heart because like I think a certain amount of this ecosystem is predicated on everyone buying into their role, and we are all not aware of what that looks like.
Yeah.
so we're speaking from a lens of like what we see, but majority of things that happen to make this function, we don't see.
Yep.
You know, which is a hard thing too. But I don't know. I mean, I think there is something to be said about like, I don't know if this is a bad word to use, but like, you know, like the starvation mindset in music, you know, like because opportunities can be so few. So like sometimes for me, I treat things like life or death.
Yeah.
And like, because, you know, we always say this at the end of a performance, you know, maybe that was someone's first time hearing you play. What if that was someone's first and last time hearing you play ever?
That's all they have. Yeah.
You know, and like most of the time, like that's enough.
Yeah.
Like when we like let's remove music. When you meet someone, I think there's a very high, I don't know what the number would be, but I know that there's a very high percentage of people that first interaction is more than enough for them to count them off in a lot of ways.
Oh.
And just like not be like, I don't really like this person. I don't really want to interact with this person. As much as we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
That's, you know, I think that it's a common thing that happens. And to think that doesn't happen in music.
Oh,
no
yeah.
way. No
it's
way.
just because we do so much. We do so much, like, it ends up being the work that you do in let's say, I mean, we're in the academic space, so let's say a semester worth of work. You have a string of performances that, you know, maybe you have 3 in 2 weeks or something. Those kind of become one event.
Yes.
In your brain.
Yes.
And so the end of performance number 3, like, you know, it's easy to kind of like relax and not think about that. And then you show up and you play, but you show up and you play in a way that's like, man, I've had a lot of performances. Like, you know, I'm going to show up. I just really want to get this done. Like, it's just another thing. And it's easy to do that. And I think about that all the time. Like, like I thought about that yesterday with Sax Orc, when I played with Sax Orc. I set up to play and we're getting ready to play the Dvorak, and I looked out and I'm like, oh shoot, 2 people in this room have probably seen me play before. And not like I'm not trying to like, oh, I'm gonna show out.
No, but
It's not that. It's just like, you know, I want to play in a way that's indicative of the type of player I am, and I want them to see that, and I want to help them. I want to help you guys have a great performance.
Yeah.
So I feel like the best way to do that is to add what I can add to a performance, which is just being me and playing in a way and being unapologetic about it. Yep.
Let me ask you a slightly or tangentially related question. Have you ever spent so much time working for a performance and then like while you're performing you get that like performance high and then like after the performance is done you feel empty?
That's a good question, Matt James. Yeah, I felt that before. A lot of times it's with a lot of the times it's when I'm playing orchestral rep. You know, I love the orchestral rep a lot. It's specifically from the viewpoint of playing timpani. I play a lot of contemporary timpani stuff, like the percussion ensemble stuff, but like my roots as a timpani player is the orchestral rep, which is, it's not a crazy thing to say. That's kind of where everybody's roots are on the instrument. But I've had some performances this year that I'm like, dude, like we played the Mozart Requiem at a local church, and like that's like I studied that piece this semester in a class. Like I was really excited to play that. Got in there and I was like, you know, in the middle of it, like it was just like very, very powerful. And then afterwards I was just like, okay, I gotta grade some projects later.
Yeah.
You know, I have to call something to get this done, and then I just kind of walked out just empty.
Yeah,
I didn't feel anything. Like people were coming up, oh my gosh, that was the most amazing thing. You sound great on the drums. And then I was just like, thank you so much. I appreciate it. No, thank you guys for having me. And it's not like I wasn't being genuine.
Right.
It just wasn't like, it didn't, it didn't hit for me after like it did in the performance. And I think that may be two things. Like, I want to put everything I have into the performance. Like so maybe it's like you've given everything you can to a performance and you come away and you're literally exhausted in every way. And so your brain is just kind of like relax. So it's actually empty.
Yeah.
And a second thing could be is that we've gotten in this routine where it's just what's the next thing, that we literally, after we get done doing something, we discard it. Mm-hmm. And then just like we're only thinking about the next thing instead of being in the moment. And which is, it's sad. And honestly, dude, if we had, say for instance, we just didn't have a bunch of performances in a semester.
Yeah.
We just had one big one.
Yeah.
At the end, would that change? And I think it would.
Yeah.
But that's not how it is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be that way. But
yeah, no. I think those are two great reasons about why it happens. I mean, generally for me as a person, if there's just like sometimes like that emotional state is really vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so like I'm a type of person where I compartmentalize a lot. So I'm like, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this here and now we're going to go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's always been a productivity mechanism that has like found its way over into like day-to-day things that I'm just trying to enjoy. You know, so I should probably figure that out at some point. But, you know, like I did the doctoral concerto competition. I was working on this concerto for like maybe like 2 months. And it's one of my favorites in our repertoire. And it's hard, man. It's super hard. But I performed it for the competition. And I'm a nervous performer. Like I generally, there's a lot going on inside when I play. But as I've done more and more, I've gotten better control on it. But like for this competition, I played really well, and I don't say that about myself, but I actually played like really, really well, and I was so proud of that. And while I was playing, like just the happy attacks, you know, they're happening. You know, it's like, oh, this is great. Like everything's going off. I'm like sending the saxophone off in a way I haven't before, like, you know, like mogging.
he's
you know, like
man started aura farming. Man.
I was aura farming in the middle of the performance.
He plays a lick and he's just like,
I was like wiping my reed. I was like, you know, just really in it, man. And after, I was so happy for like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then that was it. And like the day after, I was so empty.
Yeah.
Because I was like, man, I've been working at this for like 2 months.
Yeah.
And now it's over. I lost the Ravel Left Hand Concerto, great piece, ended up winning. But like more importantly, like I felt good about it.
Pianists never win concerto competitions, bro.
Nah, no way.
No, that's controversial.
No, it's totally satirical. They do very often. But like, you know, after the fact, I was like, man, I'm chasing the next moment like that. And that it feels like such an eternal dance of music and like doing this thing at a high level. And I was like, God, this feeling on the back end of it feels so deflating.
Yeah.
It just feels like a deflated balloon. But then when I got my flow back and I was like, all right, what are we doing next? And something new to get excited by.
That's a scary place to be in. Because I think that if we're not careful, I think there needs to be a healthy balance of both. Like I don't want to be a person that's just like ultra critical of every performance and nothing I do I actually enjoy, because I'm always like, that wasn't perfect, and then I keep moving on to the next thing, chasing infinity.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Even like yesterday, like with the sax work, like, you know, we had a few moments that I'm sure a lot of people would want to get back, but like I think that's kind of the well, there's so many things there. It's a gift. There's a gift and a curse in that. But also, you know, that's the beauty of learning how to do this thing. Yeah. You know, we're in school to learn how to perform. And some of those things, we need to get a higher rate of transfer from a rehearsal over to the stage. That's a skill that you have to learn. You have to go through that to build up the callus. Yeah. You know, and Also, I mean, how do I say, como se dice?
Well, you've been in Miami too long again. I know when you start spitting out Spanish, you've been back to the other side of the peninsula.
It's just we want to be so great, and we want to play at that supremely high threshold. And I'm a megaphone for this too, for others and for myself. But that in itself can be a crippling expectation, in that I expect everything to go perfectly and idealistically, and this lick is going to be played 1,000% well. The tuning is going to be spot on. Nothing actually functions that way. And as much of artists as we are, we seem to struggle with accepting that the art itself is imperfect. And and I wonder why that is. Well, I don't wonder, because
it's the competition factor.
The scarcity of opportunity makes us put these things into a vacuum and think that they function that way, and like we have to play it like this recording ready. And I do that same thing to a negative point, but I think just being in the moment, and just living with those feelings is okay too. It happens. Like, we have to live with that.
Yeah. I want to say here's a line that I have to walk carefully, because I don't want to say that, well, instead of being ultra critical, do the opposite, and then just kind of treat every little thing you do like the Super Bowl, and after you're done with it, go and relax for a week and a half. Because that's one thing I don't want to say either. Like, you have to have a balance. Mm-hmm. You have to celebrate the small wins, get back to work. Like, celebrate the small wins, enjoy the performance. And then, after you've taken some time to do that, just like, in sports, this is the coolest thing I like. Did my voice crack?
You just lost so much aura, you don't even know it.
Stop the video. All right. Sports.
Jason Tatum.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, in sports.
Nah.
Like, in sports, you know what I'm saying? Like, the thing I'm so inspired by is the fact that all right, I'm clip farming and aura farming at the same time.
You're cooked.
Yeah, I'm cooked, bro. All right. The one thing I like in sports is, and there's some people say this is like, they call it coach speak, but like you see a lot in like the NCAA tournament or the NBA playoffs when they're like, we're gonna enjoy this one tonight, and we're gonna start focusing on the next opponent tomorrow. And you hear that and you're just like, yeah, they just gotta say that. But then I'm like, they actually do that. Like, that's actually a part of like the mental game. Mm-hmm. Like, because if you never enjoy it, like, oh, we're business, job ain't finished.
Right. Yeah.
If that's fine, that may work for individuals, but as a team, like, you gotta take that in and celebrate it. Because what that does is you have to, if you enjoy it, you're giving yourself confidence, I think, in a way, and you're telling yourself, okay, what I did was good. I'm good at this. Like, I'm not bad. I'm decent. I'm good. I'm progressing in a way. There's more to go.
Yeah.
So that's okay to kind of take a step back and be like, what I did was good. There's more I can do, and that makes you excited about that next thing you can do, rather than just being like, that was okay. I need to do better. Because then you don't walk in with it to the next thing with the same amount of energy and excitement. You end up kind of dreading it, and you're going backwards.
I would really love to do an episode about teaching. I think we should really do that, because this very thing you're talking about is something I've struggled with, like, what I feel like my whole life, in like doing something at a high level but not the highest level that I wanted, and that immediately being like, well, that's what I should have done anyway.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it at the A+, and it is very harmful And I've had some great teachers like helping me work through that in ways they don't even know, in ways that they do know. But I think what's really helped me put a lot of this into perspective is like teaching the undergrads that I do.
Yeah.
Because they do that same thing. Because I push them. The ones that take lessons with me, like I push them a lot.
Yeah, if you take lessons with the other ones, you don't get pushed as much. I mean, that's just okay. Let me stop.
I guess Kylan took a lesson with Micah and AJ, didn't you?
Yeah.
On saxophone? Mm-hmm. Which one did you play?
Which piece?
No, which saxophone?
Oh, it was alto saxophone.
Oh, okay. What kind of reed did you use?
Synthetic.
Oh, okay. Dang, you got me. Does the screw of the ligature go on the left or the right side?
The screw goes on the right.
Yeah. Dang it,
bro.
man.
What did we? Bro, I was music ed, bro. I can actually put the sax together and show you something right now.
You gonna play that? I just jigged the band director. I got a brand new saxophone. But
that's funny.
I push them a lot because I believe in them. Everyone who takes lessons with me, it really doesn't even matter who you are.
That's hard.
Because I expect that for myself, and I would like to impart that onto my students. Because I'm delusional enough, which I think is healthy delusion, that if there's nothing on this earth that I couldn't do if I was willing to put the time forward to do it and sacrifice what was necessary to do it. My dad raised me to think about myself in that way. But it's a chase, thinking like that is a constant chase, and you have to always take time to assess, but do it in a healthy way.
Yes.
And that is something that I'm noticing, like as much as I push them, I have to be careful with that because I don't want to impart that onto them. And sometimes, they'll ask me like, oh yeah, I did well, but I didn't do this. And I'm like, no. Yeah. There is no I did well, but it's I did well.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it can even be an and.
Yeah. There can always be, next time I play this piece, I think I'd like to pay a little bit more attention to this. Sure. Yeah. That's fine. Mm-hmm. And it's about the little ways that you talk to yourself like that that make a difference. And like telling them that helps me reflect on myself and like, just pay a little bit more credence to that. And Dr. Dybel told us that from the beginning. He's like, you're going to teach and you're going to see things and you're going to say things, you're gonna be like, man, I need to do more of that.
Yeah,
and it's.
That was kind of like just kind of watching him work. He's kind of like young Yoda.
Yeah,
where he's like he's not gonna be up and like this is what you guys need to do. Like he's gonna kind of like what I'm saying, like sit back and just
he's like
just be like, what have you thought about? And then it's just like
instant banger.
I did think about that. For sure. I did. But I didn't do it. I didn't do it the right way.
I need to look up our...
what's our
question?
Our question, yeah. It's about that time. It's about that time. It's about that time.
Let's see.
It's about that time.
Let's see. All right, so... We got 2. Which one do you want? A or B?
B.
Okay, so our B question...
That was cringe. That was so cringe.
Is from Olivia Turk. The question is,
great.
Could you guys talk more about your opinion on whether it's better to be really great at one thing or instrument or aspect of your job, or to settle with just being good at many things? Will spreading yourself so thin lead to mediocrity, or should pushing yourself to be as well-rounded as possible be the ultimate goal?
Bro, that's a good question. You want me to start?
Yeah.
We might have talked about this briefly last time too, but within the, it's strange because you want to be well-rounded as a musician in general. When you start to get into like percussion is such a large family of instruments that you want to be well-rounded even within it. Mm-hmm. So I think because naturally I'm playing an instrument that requires you to be well-rounded, it makes me focus on even the bigger picture of that, being a well-rounded musician as far as being like you know, being well studied, being somebody that works on their performing, somebody that works on their teaching. And I think that yes, if you want to be really good at something, like you got to spend a lot of time on it.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a lot of time to be the best in the world at teaching and performing? And you know what I'm saying? That's a difficult thing to do. And if you can actually do that. So I think it's good to be good at a lot of things. Like if you were great at a lot of things, then I mean some people just got it, right? And good for them. But I think the pursuit of being good at a lot of things teaches you habits that you're going to be able to carry on later in life, and you're going to find yourself being more successful for doing that. So I think that it's you're not going to be able to have everything fire off at the same and just be at the same level. And there are going to be things you're naturally better at. I think the bigger focus should be the pursuit of being better at the things that you're not necessarily great at, and trying to bring all those things to the similar level of the things you are good at, so that it can kind of even surpass that thing. So the thing that you have the least amount of confidence in ends up being something that you're better at.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take on it.
I mean, I can't disagree. Honestly, I don't really believe in being a one-trick pony, just because I don't know how that's going to serve me in life. I feel like I've always kind of been a person of like many interests. So like, I really like saxophone, but I really love anime, or like, and I think like all these different parts of myself kind of make me the whole, and people that relate to me for maybe one part or two parts. But if I had only done one, then that really reduces how much, I guess, interaction and exchange I can have with people. And that's kind of what life is about to me, like the exchange of ideas and just like learning from another person and sharing with others and all that sort of thing. Plus, this world is like starting to trend more to like the well-rounded, the people who can do multiple things.
Yeah.
In many different careers, and not even talking about like academic music or anything, but just to exist and sustain yourself. Plus, I don't think that I think when we think about this topic in general, I think we think about it in an extreme.
Yeah.
Like we're like, all right, you can either have all your skill points in being able to brush your teeth, or you can like be able to like half brush your teeth, but like make a great, I don't know, apple pie. Like, I think like the level at which you're good at different things is different.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, like I might be a B+ at this and like maybe a 72 at this, but
Yeah.
I think that's good enough.
Yeah.
And I think like the way that you should go about, or the way that I would go about it, I think anyone should do anything, is just to discern what you value.
Yeah.
And focus on that, and you'll attract the people that you're kind of meant to in life, and that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess this is the last thing I've got. In the process of trying to be more well-rounded, I don't think being well-rounded means that everything is the same level. I think being well-rounded means that you've somehow found a way to improve and be effective in different areas, which makes you more complete than somebody that only focuses on one aspect. But I think we think well-rounded as this meter, to where it's like, this is here, like this one aspect of my life is here, and this is here, and this is here, which means I'm not well-rounded because they're not all the same. And it's yes, if they're all the same, you're equal in all things. You're going to be better at certain things, and it's okay if there's something that you're one thing you're just good at. But
Yeah.
don't sit and be okay with the other things being less than. Continue to work on those things, and you may never get it to where that one thing is.
Yeah.
But you will become better for having spent some time to work on those aspects of your life that's not as polished.
Yeah.
No.
I'm ready. Where'd you know that? Bro kind of cooked a little bit.
Good. I mean, see.
Yeah. Bro's John Morant.
That's it, man. Well,
hey, man, it's been good, man.
it's been a good episode. We're back. I mean, we're officially
so back.
back.
Yeah.
Indubitably.
Well, I guess we're back at it next week, too, huh?
We are back.
Special guest.
Special guest.
No spoilers, of course.
No Fugazi.
Just trying to be hip, guys.
Yeah, whatever. Well, that's all for this episode on the Pulse Check podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast where we keep our pulse on what matters most. 2 voices, 1 vibe, and a whole lot to share with the world. We'll see you next time.
Salute.
You doing?